Good evening, and welcome to Into the 99, where we have 99 cards, because Commander's number 1. I'm your hostess, Lotus, for tonight's episode of Brewing It Live, and with me is Han.
Hello, hello. How are you doing, everybody?
Hello. So, tonight, we are going to be doing another Cow Time special. We are going to do Aegar, the Freezing Flame, 1 blue-red, for a legendary giant wizard. It's a 3/3 that whenever a creature or planeswalker an opponent controls is dealt excess damage, if a giant, wizard, or spell you controlled dealt damage to it this turn, draw a card. So...
Yeah, the interesting part about that is just it says excess damage. It doesn't necessarily mean trample damage, because it's not combat necessarily.
No. So I was definitely looking at card draw aspects and other things along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
As always, I've just dumped 36 lands. We can work from there if necessary. It just makes things a little bit more simple. But I wanted to go giant tribal just because giants are the new tribe of the sets that are coming out recently, and they seem a lot of fun. What was your angle?
For sure. I have a little bit of giants and a little bit of wizards. Primarily giants as well for myself. Because, yeah, I think there was a lot of support in Kaldheim specifically for giants.
Well, I mean, there's so many good cards in Kaldheim. I mean, I can just literally give you this one to show you. This card, Battle of Frost and Fire. Not sure if you're familiar with this one. For 3...
That's the new saga, right?
It is. For 3 in blue and red, the first chapter is it deals 4 damage to each non-giant creature and each planeswalker. So it's kind of a one-sided board wipe for smaller creatures. We get to scry 2, and then whenever you cast a spell with converted mana cost 5 or greater this turn, draw 2 cards, then discard a card.
Right.
Now, going into what our commander does, if we're shoving that down and we've got a load of 1/1s on our opponent's side, that's a lot of card draw.
Yes, it very much so is. I definitely thought about this card. I also had a couple of other cards. The other saga in the set is not horrible either. Invasion of the Giants seemed very flavorful.
Yeah, I've been playing with this on Arena in Standard. And even if you just get the first chapter off, the Scry 2, it's mad. It really is insane.
Yeah, and then, so, in a perfect world, you're casting this on 2, right? You get to Scry 2 on 2.
Yeah.
And by the time, turn 3 comes up, you can cast Aegar. And you can also have the second ability trigger, which is draw a card. And then you may reveal a giant card from your hand. When you do, it deals 2 damage to target opponent or planeswalker. Now, that happens before you can potentially cast Aegar. But the third chapter where it says the next giant spell you cast, this turn costs 2 less to cast. Well, I don't know about you, but a lot of these giants are not cheap.
No, they're not. But also, if we do get it later in the game, sometimes if you have a planeswalker on 1 loyalty, that 2 damage to a planeswalker could trigger Aegar.
Yeah, for sure. For myself, I had a solid bunch of includes to deal damage and deal more damage. Yeah, I just kind of leaned into that quite a bit because the whole point of Aegar is you want to draw cards and you want to have it dealt from a giant, wizard, or a spell.
Exactly.
So the obvious include for me were initially things such as you had Torbrand, which is not a giant, but it definitely gets the job done.
It does. Torbrand will definitely increase the damage of any red source.
Right. So even if you were to have a pinger, one such pinger in a wizard aspect for me was something like an is it static caster?
And is it static caster?
Yeah, is it static caster is quite nice. It's a human wizard that costs 3, 1 blue and a red, and it has both flash and haste.
Okay.
And you tap it, and it will deal 1 damage to a target creature and each other creature with the same name as that creature. Now, that doesn't matter in our format. It's primarily used as a pinger.
Exactly. That's actually really good. And it classifies as our wizard area, so that's all good.
So if you're dealing 2 damage.
Yeah. But if I can bring you back to where my mind's set, I was going to use Giants primarily myself.
Right.
It's not popping up. Why is this not popping up? There he is. Calamity Bearer. He's a giant.
Oh, yeah.
If a giant source you control deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage instead.
Yep. Calamity Bear is a solid giant.
Yeah. He is definitely one that I would put in. And he ties up very nicely with Quakebringer.
Yeah, Quakebringer, I pulled a extended art version in my box, and boy does that thing just look like so much fun.
Yeah. It's
so
the fact that you can't gain life. Or it's not even that, it's your opponents can't gain life.
Right. You can still gain life. I mean, and is it? We typically don't do that too much. However, Quakebringer, for those that aren't aware, is 3 red and a red for a giant berserker. Stat line has a 5/4, and you can also foretell this. So you can foretell this on turn 2, and then pay 2 red and a red. So you can essentially cast this on turn 4, as early as turn 4.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of your upkeep, Quakebringer will deal 2 damage to each opponent. This ability triggers only if Quakebringer is on the battlefield, or if Quakebringer is in your graveyard and you control a giant, which, if we're controlling a bunch of giants, as this deck is wont to do, we're going to be doing that to each opponent. Now, that's just pure damage that does get doubled with the Calamity Bearer, and it's not considered excess. We'll keep that in mind. But 4 damage to each opponent every turn is not a bad way to go at all for giant 5.
No, and if Torbrand's on the battlefield as well, that just adds up.
Yeah, it'll be even more damage doubled. Yeah.
So we need to obviously do excess damage across the board.
Right.
So I would recommend stuff probably Fiery Emancipation.
Mm-hmm. I had both. Well, I had that. If you don't have access to a Fiery Emancipation, you also have access to Gratuitous Violence is another one that you can go with. Dictate of the Twin Gods. Any combination of those together just works.
When it decides to find the ones I want.
Yeah, so
there
in
it
the
is.
meantime, Fiery Emancipation, it's 3 red for basically tripling damage from a source you control. So that'll get you excess real fast.
Yeah. And also you could do Dictate of Twin Gods.
And Gratuitous Violence. Dictate of the Twin Gods is the flash enchantment, 3 and 2 red, and it will do essentially Fiery Emancipation, but only double.
Yeah. So I'm going to say it quite early on, because if this doesn't count as excess damage on a board state, I don't know what will. So, Star of Extinction?
Yep. Star of Extinction. My thought was Blasphemous Act, but you went one further.
I mean,
20 damage, sure.
Blasphemous Act is just another one that we could do.
Yeah, for sure. It's the easiest way to just get 13 and 20 damage on the board, for sure.
And then draw a bunch of cards.
Yeah, because Aegar reads whenever, so any creature that gets dealt excess damage, if they're not toughness of 13, or in Lotus's case, 20, yeah, we're going to draw cards for each of those. Yeah, I mean, are we just going full giants? Are we just gonna ignore completely wizards? Because I had a
No,
couple of spicy ones that I still wanted to add in, and I wanted to run by you.
no, because I think wizards would actually be also another good thing, so we can have like a giant wizard crossover. Because there are some giants that are wizards that care about wizards that I like to run.
Sure. Yeah. Some of the biggest one. Hey, MTG strategist, how are you? Tracy said, I mean, I feel like Wonder is going to be brought up. Not a wizard.
Wonder is the one that is the 3 in a blue for the incarnation that's a flying 2/2. As long as it's in your graveyard and you have control of an island, we have flying. I mean, who doesn't like flying giants?
Well, I don't disagree with that. I don't mind that effect if we're going that route. I also had Archetype of Imagination because that actually is an enchantment creature human wizard. So that actually gives creatures you control have flying, and creatures your opponents control lose flying and can't have or gain flying.
But it's a wizard.
But that is a wizard, correct.
Okay.
So
So
I actually don't mind both of these in the deck personally, because for me, especially in the early game, my thoughts on card draw were things of the nature of thrill of possibility. You have just things that are going to discard cards, and you can just discard this away and draw
yeah.
two. So I don't necessarily mind Wonder as a duplicate effect. But Archetype of Imagination and Wonder both give our creatures flying. For me, those both tie into cards such as Rolling Earthquake and just regular Earthquake.
Yes.
So Earthquake deals X damage, where it's red and an X to cast it at sorcery speed, but it deals X damage to each creature without flying and each player. So if we get our giants flying by one of these methods, it's going to deal that much damage in excess, and it's going to deal that much damage to each player. So it's a good mana sink.
Yeah.
Towards the later game.
That's definitely gonna depends on how much mana you put into it, get excess damage to some creatures.
Right. And for myself, again, because giants cost a decent bit, and because we have some of these X spells, me personally, I definitely was looking into what kind of ramp we have in these colors for red and blue.
Yeah.
One of the ones that I quite liked was actually Apprentice Wizard. It's actually a common that was in Double Masters recently. It's 1 blue and a blue for a human wizard, and you just pay a blue and you tap it, and you actually add 3 generic. And that's not nothing in this deck.
No. I'd be honest with you, I didn't see this in my Double Masters box. I didn't know this existed.
Yeah. This was a wizard that I just looked at and went, well, we're doing giant wizards. We need some mana.
Exactly. Now,
nobody's going to really remove this, I don't think. It's a 0/1. I'm in Is it? I don't have the green ramp you guys do.
I have, on the same sort of line of having an issue about putting things into play due to mana cost.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about Belby's Portal?
Oh, I like that actually a lot.
It's had a recent printing in Mystery Booster.
It did.
It depends if we're going more wizard or giant heavy, but if we choose giant, it's going to reduce the big costs down.
Yeah, we definitely pick giants over wizards because that's what we're here to do. I mean, the wizard support is not bad for this. There's a lot of wizards that work very well in conjunction to giants, but I also am in the same boat. I want to pack as many giants in here as much as possible, but there are just some that I just couldn't overlook.
Though, again, in the sort of same light as your apprentice wizard, let's go for Stink Drinker. Stink Drinker Daredevil, I think it is. So it's 2 and a red for a 1/3. It's a goblin rogue, but giant spells cost 2 less.
Yeah.
God knows how he got the guy's tooth, but it does what we need it to do. So that
Bogart, the
also
flavor
bring the
text on
stuff.
that. The flavor text on that. Boggarts constantly strive to outdo each other with the things they bring back to the Warren. So that's how.
Each hoping that the exploit will become as well known as those of Auntie Grub.
So yeah, I mean the last wizard I really want to shine in this, that I want to bring to the forefront, is out of Throne of Eldraine. Actually,
Okay.
it's Iron Crag Pyromancer. So this one is 2 and a red for a human wizard. It's a 0/4, so it's a decent blocker even to begin with. But whenever you draw your second card each turn, it'll deal 3 damage to any target. So again, going hand in hand with excess, 3 damage is not something you just scoff at.
No.
Because it is definitely way better than a pinger, because we'll be drawing more cards quite often.
I mean, can you imagine that you, for argument's sake, you ping something for an extra 1 damage, you draw your second card, and then you deal another 3 damage to something else, drawing you another card.
Yep.
That's... Yeah, no, I missed that, and that's good.
Yeah, it's such a good include for this that I just had to bring it up, even though it's a wizard. And, you know, there's a couple other fantastic wizards, don't get me wrong, but I kind of want to lean towards the giants and see where we can fit more wizards at that point. If that's good with you as well.
Yeah, no, I'm more than happy.
So one of the biggest things that I saw as far as the wizard aspect, let me see if I can find it here.
I've got a good one.
Sunrise Sovereign for me was huge.
Sunrise Sovereign.
Yep. So this is 5 and a red.
Yep.
For a giant warrior creature. And it gives all other giant creatures you control +2/+2 and trample.
That's not something to scoff at.
Mm-mm.
No, I can see that going in quite easily.
Mm-hmm. I love that one so much. It gives all the giants everything you need. And yeah, which one was the giant that you were thinking of?
So going on support, we know that people don't like Cyclonic Rift, so we're not going to run Cyclonic Rift. We're going to run Cyclone Summoner. 5 blue, 7 mana for a 7/7. Pretty good. Giant wizard. When it enters the battlefield, if you cast it from your hand, return all permanents to their owner's hands except for giants, wizards, and lands.
Yep.
You can't get mad at that. Well, we can't. They can.
We can't. I would also like to add an honorary mention, because a lot of our giants, like I said, do cost a lot.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite cards out of Throne of Eldraine. No, I'm sorry. This one was out of Theros Beyond. It's Thrix, the Sudden Storm. 3 blue for a legendary creature. It's an elemental giant. That's 4 power, 5 toughness. And it has flash and flying, and spells you cast with converted mana cost 5 or greater will cost 1 less to cast, and they cannot be countered.
Ooh, that's pretty handy for what we want to do.
Yep. And you could just flash this in. If you have enough mana, you could just flash this in and protect a 5 or 6 CMC spell.
Now, we're not going to be casting a lot each turn. I have a strange feeling that our spells are going to be very high mana costed, and I'd say we get, 1 or 2 a turn, if we're lucky?
Right.
So, what if we somehow doubled what we were casting with the Reflections of Lijara?
Yep.
So
that is a solid one.
Yeah, it's 4 and a blue for an enchantment, and whenever we we're going to choose giants, and whenever we cast a giant spell, we get to copy that spell, so we make copies of all the giant permanents. If there's any tribal stuff, we can do that. It just makes it more, I suppose, mana efficient on our giant costed creatures.
Yeah, I could definitely get behind that. One I would like to mention. Oh, actually, the Huntsman is in our chat. Hey, Huntsman.
Hello.
Huntsman says Soulscar Mage slots in, right? I actually forgot about Soulscar Mage. So Soulscar Mage is out of, I believe, Amonkhet.
Yes.
It's the 1-drop human wizard, 1/2 with prowess. And if a source you control would deal non-combat damage to a creature an opponent controls, put that many -1/-1 counters on that creature instead.
I mean, that would definitely reduce the amount of their power.
Right.
And then if we swing in for combat damage, that's definitely going to give us excess damage.
My only question is, if you're blasphemous acting with this out,
it would be replaced.
If it's right. So with the replacement, that will no longer be considered excess, correct?
So the damage is still being done, but it's in the form of -1 counters.
So does that still trigger Aegar? I believe it does.
I believe it will do, yes. But if we don't, for example, if we do 3 damage to a 7/7, making it a 4/4, and swing with our 5/5s, we're getting 1 extra excess in again.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that I will note, an interesting mechanic of Aegar is it actually just cares about excess damage, right?
Yes.
So it's interesting because if you have pingers in this deck, if a wizard or a giant happens to have pinged for excess damage, you will draw a card. So let's just say that there's a 2/2 blocking a 3/3, right? If you decide to just ping the 2/2 that's chump blocking a 3/3, it is considered excess damage and you will still draw a card off of it. So you actually have a lot of windows with pingers to wait for that opportunity so that you can draw a card with Aegar out.
Fair.
So for myself, I liked things like Bone Crusher Giant was one of the easiest ones because you can just do it at instant speed on the adventure.
I mean, Bone Crusher Giant's just a solid card anyway.
Yep.
It has protection for itself, and it has a 2-in-1 spell.
Yeah, so the damage can't be prevented either, so the 2 damage will be dealt to any target.
Yeah.
And if it's any kind of excess damage, and this could, keep in mind that this could happen at any of your opponent's attack phases while they do their own thing, right? They're going to swing at maybe an opponent that's not you, and they're still going to declare blocks, and you can still do this, pinging or anything with a Torbrand out, what have you, and you can still draw a card off of this card. It's oddly specific in how it's worded.
Yeah.
But if you take advantage of it fully, you can get a lot of card draw off of Aegar.
Well, talking about trying to do that, that leads me on to a perfect card that I was going to try and get in here. Crush Underfoot.
Oh, yeah.
So it's as I said before,
I love this art.
A tribal instant giant for 1 and a red. Choose a giant creature you control. It deals damage equal to its power to target creature. So that ties into so many cards that we're running. Reflections of Jitara will copy it because it's a giant spell. And because a giant source is dealing damage, Calamity Bearer can double it. There is just so much that we can do with just that one card. Yeah,
there's definitely a lot of interactions that you have in this deck that I found as well just from looking into this. It's been so much fun looking at giants and being like,
I think giants have been sorely ignored until now.
And I think that this is one of the best times to kind of bring it in, to be honest with you. This uncommon commander is actually kind of taking a flashlight and looking straight at giants, and there's a lot of things that you can find if you actually take the time.
Yeah.
One of the ones that I found that, especially once we get enough giants into this, Thundercloud Shaman is an insane giant. 3 red for a 4/4 giant shaman creature. When it enters the battlefield, it deals damage equal to the number of giants you control to each non-giant creature.
To each non-giant.
Yes. So
Oh.
you were talking about overkill, right? My immediate thought with this one was, okay, I'm going to Thassa, Deep Dwelling, and Conjurer's Closet this thing at the end of every turn.
Oh my. Okay.
Because, I mean, there is one of your giant win cons right there. Hey, Benson, how you doing?
Hey, Benson. So, do we want to put in a Conjurer's Closet?
Yeah, I'm perfectly okay with
Or
Conjurer's Closet.
Thassa?
Or Thassa, or both.
So, I think if we're going for one, it's Thassa, because we got the extra option of being able to tap stuff.
Sure, and it's actually one cheaper as well. I
Yeah.
don't disagree with that.
And
in this deck, because I feel like it's so red heavy, you may never get it Thassa to become a creature.
No.
With the devotion, you may not. You might.
I mean, we've got double mana pips, so it might, but it's not probably going to be easy. Yeah, that's just thrown me off because I was coming up with something that was similar, but it was nowhere near as devastating. The one I had was Basalt Ravager, which
Basalt Ravager is great.
When it enters the battlefield, it does X damage to any target where X is the greatest number of creatures you control that have a creature type in common. Right. It's also a giant and a wizard. But
all checkboxes.
It just doesn't compare to what yours was.
Well, I would still put that in. So, I mean, the one I suggested, that's going to get removed. It should not stay on the battlefield more than a round, especially if you have a Thassa or something on the board where it's very telegraphed, right?
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you just slam down a Thundercloud Shaman when you have, I don't know, 8 giants on the field because I'm just running Dirtly Giants, it can get there.
Yeah. So, with all these giants that we're actually playing, we're obviously going to want to search for our win con. So, what about Giant Harbinger? So it's 4 and a red for a 3/4 that when it comes into play, search your library for a giant card, reveal it, shuffle your library, put it on top. Yeah, and I think with the amount of card draw we've got,
I mean, even besides anything else, I think it just ties in with your Thassa and the Conjurer's Closet kind of idea. I think it's more reason to actually include the Conjurer's Closet alongside it if we have a bunch of these ETB effects, but we'll see how many exactly we have before we double down on it.
Well, if I get it, we can always cut it later because that's something we always do.
Sure. Here's a couple additional big win con like cards to add.
Okay.
within the realm of giants. So I really like things like Bloodfire Colossus. This is probably it's an 8 CMC giant. It's a 6/6 giant for 8, including 2 red. And you pay a red and sacrifice it, and you will deal 6 damage to each creature and each player.
Yeah.
So, again, Fiery Emancipation, Dictate of the Twin Gods. If we're doing this, we're definitely drawing some cards.
Yeah, we're definitely drawing cards off of that.
So the question at that point, though, becomes, well, we're drawing a lot of cards.
Yeah.
What does that do for us specifically? Like, how do we win with lots of cards?
I mean, it depends on how many cards we're physically drawing. It doesn't look like we're drawing enough to go for a Thassa Oracle or Jace win.
I would beg to differ.
I'm on the fence. So, I mean, it doesn't hurt putting a Thassa's Oracle in.
Right. So I've got 2 options for you. You can tell me which one you like better.
Okay.
One is, how about having a Body of Knowledge? It was a recent print from Commander Legends.
Okay.
3 blue and a blue for a star power toughness avatar. Body of Knowledge's power and toughness are each equal to the number of cards in your hands, and you have no maximum hand size with this card out. Also, whenever Body of Knowledge is dealt damage, you draw that many cards.
That's nuts.
So, theoretically, you could start with something small with Body of Knowledge out. Maybe do 2 damage to each non-giant creature. So Body of Knowledge will then draw you, or with Aegar out, it will draw you 2 cards. Body of Knowledge will get taken that much damage, and it will also draw you cards. They can snowball pretty fast, and you have a big, giant Body of Knowledge.
Yeah, okay, that's changed my mind.
So that's one way.
Mine was
The
more
other way-
pure.
Oh, mine was no. My other thought was Psychic Corrosion effects.
Oh, okay.
So Psychic Corrosion is 2 and a blue for an enchantment. Whenever you draw a card, each opponent will put the top 2 cards of their library into their graveyard. So we could definitely go a mill route, or we could go more of a Body of Knowledge route. I will leave this one up to you. Do you prefer the Body of Knowledge, or do you prefer to mill some people out while we draw cards?
I think things like that, like with Teferi's tutelage, I kind of like that. But I think the Body of Knowledge kind of sits in there with it as well.
Mm-hmm.
See, I was going for things like Warstorm Surge.
Oh, no, that's definitely in there too.
Because you play a massive 5/5 and deal 5 damage to a poor little 1/1.
Mm-hmm. Anytime you have a creature entering the battlefield, it will trigger, and you will deal damage equal to its power to any target.
Yeah. Okay, so this has changed.
Ironically, the Warstorm Surge, it says it deals damage, meaning that the creature that entered the battlefield dealt damage. So if that creature happens to be a giant, it will also trigger
Calamity
Aegar.
Bearer.
Yeah, Calamity Bearer, Aegar, any of the above. And yeah, Huntsman, I think Lotus meant Sphinx's tutelage. I believe you said Teferi's tutelage.
No, I did say Teferi's tutelage.
Oh, you actually did mean Teferi's tutelage.
Whenever
both the tutelages.
But Sphinx's tutelage is a good one too. But
Mhm.
Teferi's tutelage is 2 and a blue enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card, discard a card. Whenever you draw a card, target opponent mills 2.
Yeah. So that's the other one that was actually just recently printed out of M21, Huntsman. Yeah, just goes hand in hand with Psychic Corrosion and Sphinx's tutelage, and you could just go down that route if you so chose for the mill route. But
We just put all 3 in.
I mean, that's what I was saying. There are so many options to go. You could do the mill, because we are going to go. If you decide to go the mill route, you're also kind of going heavily into the draw card route,
Yeah.
right? Whereas if you're trying to do, giant shenanigans, I feel like that's more along the lines of Body of Knowledge.
So,
But I wanted to bring that up because, this is kind of like one of those fork in the road situations.
I know, I'm torn. Do we go mill? Do we go Body of Knowledge? We need to start making this decision now.
Yeah, before we go any further, I think for sure. But they're both fantastic ways to do it.
I kind of want to go the card draw mill.
Our draw mill.
I do.
Anybody in chat want to weigh in? Feel free. If we do decide to go the card draw and mill strategy, I feel like there are definitely cards such as any of the Niv Mizzets that kind of want to get you more card draw.
If you can see me right now, I'm staring at Niv Mizzet Perun right now, going, "This is good."
Yeah, literally any of the 3 Niv Mizzets work in this deck if you decide to start going down that route.
Yeah. So
Huntsman says, honestly, I would play with both because worst case scenario, you just don't cast Body of Mind.
yeah, that seems reasonable.
Sure. So yeah, at this point, let's go ahead. We'll say we'll just put all 3 in and then see how the deck goes in that case, and we'll start going down this draw a card route.
Going down this dark path, and I love it.
So I will say, for the sake of sanity, let's pick 2 Niv Mizzets.
Okay, so I'm gonna pick the one from Guilds of Ravnica.
Okay.
So
Burn.
yeah, that's my pick.
Okay. I would pick the Draco Genius, personally. And I'll tell you why. Because Perun and the Fire Mind, that's just whenever you draw a card, you ping for 1 damage to any target, correct?
So the Niv Mizzet Perun is it can't be countered. It's a flying 5/5 wizard. Whenever you draw a card, it deals 1 damage to any target. Whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell, draw a card.
Okay. So anytime anybody will cast an instant or sorcery spell, you will draw a card and then you will ping for 1 damage.
Yes.
I'm picking the Draco Genius because this one still has the same idea in mind, but you can actually pay 2 mana to targeted do that at any time.
Okay.
Also, repeatedly. This goes in the case of, you want to ping for excess damage and drawing a card with your commander. You can just ping anywhere on the table to do quote unquote excess, and you can just get to draw a card.
Yeah.
And I think that that's fantastic just to enable it at any point. It just gives you a little bit of flexibility with both, I think. And if we're talking about Niv Mizzets, do we add Curiosity is the obvious one.
I was going to say that just Curiosity is the 1 mana aura. Whenever equipped enchanted creature deals damage to opponent, draw a card. So that can end the game.
Right. I think that that's a solid way to go. Just to have a combo in the,
Yeah. And if you do
in the deck.
So Curiosity deals damage to an opponent. So we can stop the combo if it's going to kill us by targeting a creature.
Yep, certainly can.
So we're not going to die to our own triggers.
Correct. I also, if we're doing Niv Mizzet things, how do you feel about Charisma?
Charisma?
Mm-hmm. Charisma. It's a 3 blue enchantment that says whenever enchanted creature deals damage to a creature, you control that creature as long as Charisma remains in play.
I have never heard of this, and I am wondering why it's only $3. That's insane.
So Charisma, I get to ping, and you can put this on any pinger, and you could just, I'm going to take that.
That's just nuts.
The other one I had in mind was Sigil of Sleep. Are you familiar with that one at least? So Sigil of Sleep is very Curiosity-like. It's 1 blue for an enchantment that you enchant a creature, and anytime the enchanted creature deals damage to a player, it returns that target creature to the player's hand.
Okay.
So you could do this on either of the Niv Mizzets. You could do this on the aforementioned, is it Static Caster? You could do this on Ironcrag Pyromancer.
I have not seen that card before, and I'm wondering why.
I looked at some Niv Mizzet stuff because I was just like, if we ever go that route, there's some fun things you can do.
Yeah, I've now noticed that that's now a thing.
Yep. Huntsman says Teferi's Ageless Insight.
Oh, double card draw, of course.
Yep. I mean, double pings, double everything as far as our card draw. And I think that's how you get to self-mill.
Okay, so we're doing giant tribal self-mill. When we came up with this to do Aegar the Freezing Flame, I was nowhere in the ballpark of thinking of mill. It was the worst thing in my mind. Like, how could you possibly do it? Now, all of a sudden, it's gonna happen.
Yep, giant mill.
So
go ahead.
Okay, so we're doing a lot of non-combat damage that's excess, yeah?
Yes.
So I quite like Toroth, God of Fury.
For sure.
This is 2 and 2 red for a god with trample that's already a 5/4. So a 4 mana 5/4 with trample, pretty decent. But whenever a creature or planeswalker an opponent control is dealt excess non-combat damage, it deals damage equal to the excess to any target other than that permanent.
Yeah.
Now, imagine you've got Torbrand out. So we ping a 1/1 for 1. Torbrand makes it 3. So we're doing excess damage, but there's 2 excess that we target another 1/1. Torbrand sees it as a new point of damage, adding 2. It's just gonna keep growing.
Oh yeah.
Drawing us more cards.
You didn't think it was going this route, did you?
No. Who thought that we could draw this many cards off of Aegar?
No, immediately as soon as I saw the card, I said, "Oh man, this is borderline, Locust God level. You could do some draws."
I'm starting to see that now.
Yeah. Along those lines, I mean, here's something that I really liked. I was doing some research and I came across a Crowan horse. It's not a giant, but technically it's not on our side of the board. So does that count? 0/4 defender for 4 mana. Artifact creature horse. As it enters the battlefield, an opponent gains control of it.
Yeah.
At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent gets a 1/1 white soldier creature token, which is perfect for setting up any excess damage.
What that tells me is that a crowing horse gives our opponents cannon fodder for card draw.
Yes.
I'm liking it.
Yep.
So does that mean we put Varchild in?
We can certainly put Varchild in.
Because Varchild isn't either, but when it deals combat damage to a player, that player puts that many 1/1 survivors. It might not actually be the right card for this. I just
yeah. I think the Crowan horse does it well enough.
Yeah.
I mean, our opponents are still going to play enough creatures. I don't think that we ever needed to do it.
I think it's good.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to doing more damage to multiple creatures,
Sure.
What about Sarkhan's Unsealing?
Ooh, M19.
Yeah, going back to M19, Sarkhan's Unsealing. It's a 3 and a red for an enchantment. Whenever you cast a creature spell with power 4, 5, or 6, Sarkhan's Unsealing deals 4 damage to any target. Whenever you cast a creature spell with power 7 or greater, it deals 4 damage to each opponent and each creature and planeswalker they control.
Do we have that many giants that are in the realm of 7 power or greater? Because I think I have one that I found specifically that straight up comes to mind.
I mean, we've got 6s, 5s.
Okay, I found.
There's a 7/7. Okay, there's not enough. There's a 6/6. There's not enough for it to trigger its second ability.
Yeah, I think maybe not. I found a couple of 7s, but not too many.
Okay, so maybe that's not the right way we need to go then.
I think the Warstorm Surge is enough in that regard for myself. But I will swing a different card in that realm your way.
Okay.
What do you think of perhaps a Shared Animosity?
2 and a red. Enchantment. Whenever a creature you control attacks, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn for each other attacking creature that shares a creature type with it. Yeah? I mean, we're not going to just sit back with our 5s and 6s.
Not at all. How are we looking on creatures as of right now?
24.
Okay.
I think we're getting to the point where we don't want too many extra ones, but there are definitely more giants out there that are very good.
Yeah, so I think we're hitting that point because there are definitely a lot of giants that are not good.
No.
And I think we can start putting in only the good ones. So I had that Bloodfire Colossus that I'd mentioned earlier. There was also one that I really liked. Did you have Borderland Behemoth?
I'm looking at it now. I'm just looking through the list of giants that I was like, these would be really good. And then this one just propped up at the same time you mentioned it. A 7 mana 4/4 that has trample and gets +4/+4 for each other giant you control. If that doesn't do excess damage, I think we're doing something wrong.
Yep. And I think that, that also comes with trample, so...
Yeah. I'm just going through the list just to see what's actually decent. Another one that I actually have just realised that I wanted to put in here was Galecaster Colossus.
Okay.
It's a giant wizard, 5/6. Tap and untap wizard you control. Return target non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand.
You would like this card.
I do. It taps it. You can use it to tap itself to bounce a
Sure.
problematic card. But I think we do have quite a few wizards as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, our commander's a wizard. You got 2 Niv Mizzets. There's enough in here to get it to work.
Yeah, we have a few wizards for sure. Yeah, I don't mind that one at all. We could definitely start putting some cuts in later as far as the giants and creatures, but let's get the good ones in here. One of the really good ones that I liked, especially if we have the Thassa and potentially Conjurer's Closet in.
Yeah.
Doomscar Titan. 4 and 2 red for the giant berserker out of Kaldheim. When it ETBs, creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain haste until end of turn. Actually, on the ETB it would be at the end step, so maybe not so much. But I think haste is a factor. So instead of Doomscar Titan in that case, do we go for something like Perforos?
Maybe, but if you're going for something very attack heavy and you want to do a lot of damage on the swing, I've been having so much fun with this one. Surtland Flinger.
Oh, yeah.
So 3 red for a giant berserker 4/6. When it attacks, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, it deals damage equal to the sacrificed creature's power to any target. If the sacrificed creature was a giant, it deals double that damage instead. And I've actually got it to work on Arena playing Standard with the Calamity Bearer, where you sling a 4/4 for 16 damage out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And we're running Fiery Emancipation.
Yeah.
So you're going to be doing 48 damage on a fling.
No problem. Put it in.
Swing with that, fling a 4/4, alpha strike someone.
So are we saying that we need to put Isochron Scepter and fling under it?
I mean, if we're going to put Isochron Scepter, I just want to put Crush Underfoot under it as well.
Yep, that'll work too. Yeah, there's certainly some options. Huntsman says if you're dirtling, you'll probably need some early game protection. Do we need a Ghostly Prison? I don't think that we do. Huntsman, the reason I'm saying that is because if we're having effects like Earthquake and Blasphemous Act, we're okay with things being out on the board.
I mean, our commanders are turn 3. If we Soul Ring turn 2, as long as our mana base is good. What's our curve looking like, actually?
That's a good question.
So we have 5 in the 1-drop. Our curve is 4.24, so it's not great, because usually we like it to be within the 3, but we're running giants.
We're running giants. It's going to be high.
But I do get the concern of the early game. So it depends on what kind of thing we're looking to do. Because we could run things like Crystalline Giant, which is 3 generic mana for a 3/3.
Yep. Solid giant.
Or we run Terraean Mauler, an honorable giant, 2 and a red for a 2/2 shapeshifter changeling. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, put a +1 counter on the Taurian Mauler.
Yep. Those will work.
It just depends on what you want. Are we trying to protect ourselves, or are we going to try and ramp and try and survive?
I think for me, I just wanted to ramp and try to survive and get there. Because I wanted to just blow up the board and things of that nature.
Yeah. So do we put things in like Anger of the Gods and Storm's Wrath just to try and keep the board states under control until we're ready?
Yeah, I'm good with Anger of the Gods, I think. Deal 3 damage to each creature, and if a creature is dealt damage this way this turn, it would exile it.
Oh, I forgot they did a Yargle version.
Art. Yes, they did. There's a Yargle version of that. The other option, Chain Reaction, is a solid one.
Chain
Huntsman says that Ghostly Prison would at least keep things in play, just less likely to attack you. There's also a red enchantment that deals damage to attacking creatures, he says.
So, I mean, Ghostly
Circle
Prison's
of
just
Flame.
had a reprint in the new commander set for the Flicker
Spirit.
one. This Flicker one, yeah. I was playing against it today, and that deck goes off. So there's an enchantment that deals damage to creatures when they attack?
Yeah, Circle of Flame is the one that Huntsman is suggesting.
Circle of Flame. 1 and a red enchantment. Whenever a creature without flying attacks you or a planeswalker you control, deal 1 damage to that creature. I mean, it deals with the token issues, and if we've got things like Fiery Emancipation, it adds up. I can see that working.
Early game, I think Glimpse the Cosmos from the recent Call Time set was actually quite good as well. It's a 1 and a blue for a sorcery. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put 1 of them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order.
Yeah.
As long as you control a giant, which we certainly do, you may cast Glimpse the Cosmos from your graveyard by paying blue rather than paying its mana cost. If you cast Glimpse the Cosmos this way, and it would be put into your graveyard, exile it instead. So, yeah, if you control a giant, this only costs 1.
That seems reasonable. So we're at 91 cards. We haven't even...
to make some mana.
Yeah, we need to make some mana. So we need the Soul Rings. We need Arcane Signet.
Okay.
Just because our creatures are big.
Sure.
And mana fixing is going to be one of the biggest things, especially in our early turn if we want a turn 2 Saga.
Sure. So, I mean, I would say, is it Signet? Probably the...
Do we run things like...
Talisman of Creativity is probably one. I would probably put in a Thought Vessel because of the number of cards we're drawing.
A Thought Vessel over a Requellery Tower?
I mean, yeah, but we could just double down on it in case we don't draw that one. Body of Knowledge is a third ability or creature that gives us, unlimited hand size. So I think 3 is about a good, comfortable level for the amount of draw we're doing.
Yeah, so another Thought Vessel. Yeah, it is a mana rock, I suppose. That's true.
Yep.
Do we want an Urza's Incubator?
I mean, if you have the money to put it in, by all means.
I never said that this was a budget channel.
I know. Yeah, Urza's Incubator definitely gets those giants out a lot faster.
I mean, I won't put in anything that's like over 100 because that's just unrealistic. But £25, it's reasonable. It's expensive, but if you've got one, I'd say shove it in.
Yeah. Making things cheaper. Another option for that, I would say, is Herald's Horn would probably be the other one if you wanted to go a budget version.
I mean, Herald's Horn is... I don't even know how much it is now.
I believe it's cheaper than Urza's Incubator. It got a reprint in Jumpstart as well.
Oh, yeah, so it's only $10.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. Mystery Booster, I think it was like $12.99 or something like that. So
okay, so we'll put both in just because the size of our creatures. I mean, another... we could just put in Ruby Medallion.
Yeah.
But
Ruby Medallion will generally get most of our big things out onto the battlefield. So
our instants are looking a bit light. Yes, go ahead.
It's not an instant, it's a sorcery.
Oh, okay.
However, I was looking at Inner Fire. So Inner Fire is 3 and a red for a sorcery, but it adds a red mana to our mana pool for each card in our hand.
Okay.
So there's some mana generation right there.
Especially if we're drawing a lot.
Yeah. I would also possibly recommend Dual Strike. Because
I was waiting for you to mention this one.
Dual Strike is the foretell where you can cast an instant or sorcery with CMC 4 or less, and you can copy it. So, depending on how many cards, let's say we have 10 cards in hand. If we pay 1 to foretell it with it already out on the field, we pay 5 mana and generate 20 red.
And then Rolling Thunder.
Any of our X spells.
Yeah.
So that's one way. The other thought that I had, as far as generating a whole bunch of mana, was if you happen to have one, why not run a mana echoes? You just choose a creature type and then add amount of colorless equal to the number of creatures that you control that share that creature type.
Yeah.
That won't get out of hand at all.
No, I don't think so. I've just noticed there's a card that I really like just because of the flavor.
Oh yeah.
Squash. 4 and a red instant. Deals 6 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If we control a giant, it costs 2.
Yeah.
I think 6 damage to something is definitely going to be excess in most cases.
Sure.
If not...
We'll go for more, though.
True, but it kills things like Elder Gargaroth, deals you 6 damage there. But if we are going to get like our Torbrands, we'll get the excess damage through that way.
What do you think of putting in a Kazul's Fury, the flip card that is basically Fling and a land on the side?
I mean, it just takes a land slot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It goes in. It's a land.
I also agree with putting in a Seething Song for some more mana generation.
Yeah, 3 for 5. That's a good increase.
I mean, copy effects.
Yeah, I mean...
Husband's asking about what's the one that adds 7 red, but you can only cast one more spell this turn.
Oh, I know that one.
I have that on my list here somewhere. Let me just find it real quick.
It's from Eldraine. Because it was the whole magical Christmas land. You cast it on turn 4 and get an Ugin.
Yep. Iron Crag Feet.
That's it.
Iron Crag Feet. 1 red. Sorcery at 7 red. And you can cast only one more spell this turn.
I know. One spell is usually a big old giant. I mean, 7 mana. That's Bloodfire Colossus.
Yeah, it's most of the giants.
Borderland Behemoth. Yeah, it's pretty decent. I mean, even if it gets us most of the mana, so say 6, and we waste 1, that's not bad.
If we're talking about more red mana generation, Jessica's Will would be a thought.
Jessica's Will?
Yeah. I don't know if it actually goes in, but yeah, it's certainly a good one. Have I already mentioned Mana Geyser? Because if not, let's put Mana Geyser in over Jessica's Will.
Yeah. That one actually works quite nicely.
Ooh. I like as a board wipe, Mizium Mortars. I would say we could even potentially take out one of the Earthquakes for this.
Yeah.
So Mizium Mortars is 1 and a red for a sorcery. Mizium Mortars deals 4 damage to target creature you don't control, but you have the option of overloading it for 3 red. So 6 mana turns into deal 4 damage to each creature you don't control.
Yeah, so it's red. It works the same as Cyclonic Rift, but for damage instead of bouncing.
Right.
So
and you get to
if that's the case, then, and that does 4 damage for 6, do we take out Storm's Wrath for 4 damage? Because I think Anger of Gods at 3 is pretty good because it also exiles.
Yeah, I think Storm's Wrath we could probably switch for Mizium Mortars.
Yeah, I'm quite happy for that.
It'll hit a wider range, I think, and it won't hit our own giants. Won't get hit in the crossfire.
Exactly. There is a giant that I was considering. Tectonic Giant. So Tectonic Giant is a 2 and 2 red for an elemental giant. That's a 3/4. So when it attacks or becomes the target of a spell an opponent controls, choose one of the following. It deals 3 damage to each opponent, or exile the top 2 cards of your library, choose one of them until end of turn. Until your end of next turn, you may play that card. So
yeah, I think it's flexible enough, and it's a nice giant.
So if it's a land, we can play an extra land. If it's a creature or giant that we really want, we can grab it.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Such a nice little card.
I don't know about nice, but I think I like it.
Yeah. So we're getting into the era that we're at 106 cards, so we now need to start being careful of what we start adding in, but you know what we're like. We hit like 115 and cut from there.
Okay. Well, one more.
Okay, let's go.
I've got Inferno Titan because it doesn't see enough play. You know, we always see white, Sun Titan, Grave Titan, but we're in Giant Tribal, right? I think Inferno Titan gets an honorable include here.
I mean,
so
yeah.
Inferno Titan is 4 red and a red. It's a 6/6 giant with fire breathing. Pay a red to have Inferno Titan get +1/+0 until end of turn. And when Inferno Titan ETBs or attacks, it deals 3 damage divided as you choose among 1, 2, or 3 targets. Seems perfect for Aegar.
Yeah, that seems pretty reasonable.
I quite like it.
Now, I want to put in a on-theme protection for our commander, because I think they're going to remove it if they see what we're trying to do.
Oh.
So, Giant's Amulet. For a single blue, it's an equipment that you can pay an additional 3 in blue, and it will come in with a 4/4 wizard attached to it. But the equipped creature gets +0/+1 and has hexproof as long as it's untapped.
Yeah?
I don't think we're going to attack with our commander.
Nah, we're not trying to do commander damage. We're just trying to keep it around. So yeah, I think Giant's Amulet's a perfect fit. 1 to cast and equip with 2. That's not bad at all.
And if we don't need it, it gives us an extra body.
Mm-hmm. I'm loving it.
I'm kind of liking how this has shaped up so far.
What do you think of Fateful Showdown?
Fateful
So,
Showdown?
If we have our hand size at a nice healthy, 15, 20 cards, let's say.
Okay.
Fateful Showdown will deal damage to a target creature or player equal to the number of cards in your hand. Discard all those cards and then draw that many cards.
Oh, I like that.
You really want to do that? You want to swing at me and try to hit me for lethal? Instant speed, Fateful Showdown? Maybe you remove that other target player instead. Who knows?
Yeah, I like that. And if we've got Niv Mizzet on the board...
Mm-hmm. You see where we're going with this.
Oh, I like this.
Yeah, that one could be quite spicy, I think.
Definitely. So...
Alright, so...
Do we need a Thassa's Oracle? Because I feel that we're drawing a hell of a lot of cards now.
We definitely are.
Okay, so... I
was going to suggest Riel at some point.
I mean, Thassa's Oracle is a wizard as well. It just
Riel's a wizard.
Oh, you want Rael as well?
Oh, no. I'm just tossing it out there.
Oh, okay.
I'll let you choose on that one.
We'll have Thassa's Oracle.
Okay.
Because of, I feel that it fits a little bit better.
Sure.
Just, yeah.
Okay, so since you vetoed Riel, I'm going to say, have you played with Tibor and Lumia ever? Tibor.
Yeah, there it is. I
Tibor and Lumia,
have not.
2 blue and a red for a human wizard. It's a 3/3. Whenever you cast a blue spell, you get to target a creature and it gains flying until end of turn. But whenever you cast a red spell, Tibor and Lumia will deal 1 damage to each creature without flying.
Huh. Now, our creatures are quite big.
Mm-hmm.
So that won't do a lot of damage to us.
I mean, short of fiery emancipation, yeah.
True.
It could certainly backfire. However,
is it worth the risk?
I mean, what's life without a little risk?
Sure, it goes in.
All right, I think I'm done.
So,
are you good with starting to cut at this point?
Yeah, I don't think we need to worry about the land base, because again, all the dual lands and everything is down to interpretation of if you like to run shocks, checks, fetches. The Requellery Tower fits the theme, so it's best to put it in, but I don't think there's any other lands that really jump.
I disagree wholeheartedly.
I mean, you could run Castle Embreth.
Oh no, I'm not talking about that at all.
Oh, what are you thinking?
Just pull up Tyrite Sanctum for me. Tyrite.
What was that? T?
Tyrite.
Oh, there it is.
Tyrite Sanctum.
Okay.
I think we most definitely want to put an indestructible counter on our target god, Toralf.
Yeah, okay. That seems reasonable.
Because if they can't deal with Toralf and it stays on the board, it's just strictly a win condition. So once you put indestructible on it, good luck.
Yep, okay, I agree. But we're now in the realm of cuts. We need to cut 11.
Sure.
So the first thing I have to ask, we have 35 lands and we have that one Fury. So we have 36 lands, but our creatures are quite expensive and our mana curve is 3.82. So
3.82. We're in the realm of 3 now, though.
We are in the realm of 3. I think 35, I think that's about right.
Fair.
If it was near a 3, I would have gone down a mana, but at nearly 4, I'd keep it at that.
Sure.
So
I think
our artifacts are a bit heavy.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we need the Conjurer's Closet / Belby's Portal, because they're both 5 drops.
Exactly. I think because we've also got Urza's Incubator, we've got Herald's Horn, I think Belby's Portal could be the one to go.
Yeah, I think the Conjurer's Closet bringing back the crazy giant that just counts up all the giants and deals damage to all the non-giants is too good.
Yeah. And the fact that you pay 5 mana and this is a free ability, whereas Belby's Portal, you still have to keep investing mana into it.
Yep.
So
I would agree with that.
That's gone. Now, Isochron Scepter, is it worth it for 1, 2, 3, 4 spells?
Probably not.
Okay, so I would say that would go then.
Me personally, I would keep it in the deck. Just because I want to do it. I don't care. But for the purposes of this deck, I think it's cut.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to do that, I would say probably whack in a few more 2-drops in the instant sorceries. But in all intents and purposes for what we're doing, I don't think it's necessary.
Right. I would also consider... Oh, Huntsman. Huntsman's on the Zach train. He says, have you put Brash Taunter in here?
You know what? I'm going to do it because...
Reasons.
Yeah. If you've watched enough of us at the Into the 99, you know that Zach, Necro Zach, will put it in every deck they can.
Yep. I mean, to be fair, we do have all the pieces for Blasphemous Act and things like that. I suppose it fits.
It does.
Even though it's not a giant.
And I will still argue with Necrozac till the cows come home that it's not the best goblin. It's Goblin Lackey and it always will be.
He's turning over in his grave right now. Zach, we love you. Yeah, I think at this point, we have 31 creatures.
We've got 10 cards to cut. We've got 32 creatures because we've just had Brash Taunter come in.
Yep.
So we've got Archetype of Imagination and Wonder. Mm-hmm. As much as I know Tracy suggested it, which was a fantastic suggestion, I believe
I think the archetype wins.
The archetype wins because it's a wizard.
Yep.
That's purely it. And I think... Oh, where was that creature that you said? Tybor and Lumia? I think that's another one to go, purely because it's a bit risky.
Sure. I think that's fair.
So we're now at 108.
Okay.
We're getting close.
My question, I think having the alternate condition of as you draw cards, milling the other opponent is viable. Correct?
Yes.
So Psychic Corrosion, I think, is fantastic. I think Sphinx's Tutelage is also great.
Yeah.
So I think that's the limit of our milling strategy, though.
So we need to cut one of the 3. So Psychic Corrosion is each opponent, which is fantastic. Sphinx's tutelage,
It is a target opponent, but
but
it's also whenever you draw a card.
it is. But whenever you draw a card, target opponent mills 2. If they're both non-land cards that share a color, repeat the process. So it could, if we're going against
mono or even 2-color decks, they could get there quite often.
Yeah. Or Teferi's tutelage, which draws us a card as it enters, and whenever we draw a card, target player mills 2.
Yeah. So which one do you like? Which 2 do you like the best?
Sphinx's tutelage targets one person, but has the opportunity to mill so much more than Teferi's tutelage. And Psychic Corrosion is everybody. Mm-hmm. So I'm happy to cut Teferi's.
Okay. So I would agree. I think that Sphinx's tutelage also gives you the wiggle room of if there's a person at the table who is, arch enemy. I think you being able to target an opponent is actually a win in this regard, and you'll still draw a bunch of cards off of it, but you'll also have the opportunity to potentially get rid of one person.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think I like that flexibility because we have the Psychic Corrosion for the other one,
and
we're also not using a card with the name Teferi in it.
True.
Teferi just draws so much hate.
And we're at 107, but we've got 16 enchantments.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think Curiosity Stays is far too good. I think we could probably get rid of the Sigil of Sleep. Bouncing a target creature is fine, but for me, I would just rather pay 2 more mana and play Charisma.
Yeah. No, I agree. We
also have the 2 Sagas, which deals 4 damage on Battle of Frost and Fire, and I think that's fine. Just off of 5 mana, just having that only happen, I think even that's good enough value because it's 4 damage to each non-giant. I think you'll draw, I don't know, let's say 8, 7, 6, 7, 8 cards off of it with Aegar out on the field. That it's fine just by itself.
And the Scry 3, just a bonus.
Everything else is just bonus, honestly, I think, at that point.
Invasion of the Giants is great setup.
Yep. So we have Fiery Emancipation, Gratuitous Violence.
And we have the Calamity Bearer, so it's on a creature, so that's not too bad. But it's a giant, so we kind of need that.
Yep.
I'm curious about Shared Animosity.
Yep. I was actually looking at that myself. Let's get rid of it. I think that our giants are there for the reasons that they're there. I don't think that we're swinging in, and I don't believe we have anything that particularly gives us trample throughout all of this. So I think I'm good cutting Shared Animosity. Yeah.
So
it would be different for me if we were to throw in like a Locust God, but I don't think we're doing that even with our draws.
Exactly.
At that point, you include the Shared Animosity, but we're not going for insects. We're trying to win with some giants and shenanigans.
Exactly. We've got 30 creatures. We need 5 cuts. I think some have to come from the creature section.
Ooh.
Is a crow and horse really what we want to do?
I think that it would happily surprise you.
Really? Yeah? You think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's put it this way. Would you pay 4 mana to draw 3?
Oh god, yeah.
Well, you've got 3 tokens that are just going to take... They're not going to do anything.
All right, then I submit.
And that's at the beginning of every upkeep. So, like, if nobody just decides to remove it, everybody just kind of has stuff for us to blow up.
Fair.
I think it just gets there. The one I was looking at was honestly the Bloodfire Colossus.
I was looking at Basalt Ravager.
Basalt Ravager?
Yeah. ETBs and does damage to one thing.
Yeah. 4 mana, potentially draw 1 or get rid of something. It's pseudo removal. No?
We'll put it as the maybe, but Bloodfire Colossus, 6 damage to each creature and each player. That will hurt us way too much.
8. It costs 8, and it then also costs an additional to activate that, and you have to sacrifice it. I think that's a lot, so I think we can get rid of it. Yep. I like the Borderland Behemoth way too much.
Yeah, that's just insane.
I think that's our silly crazy giant. If we get to swing with him, then people deserved it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Um, we've got Inferno Titan. Is it Staticaster?
Is it Staticaster?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I think we can cut that.
I don't think it does enough.
I think we can cut that. I think we have other effects that just do more.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% on the Soul Scar Mage. I'm not sold on that personally.
I mean, I agree that it can be very good, and the implications of how it can be used would be quite interesting, but just for the sake of trying to get cuts, I think I would as well. But I do like where it was going.
Yeah. My other question mark here is the Tectonic Giant. I like it. With the Fire Emancipation effect, dealing 3 damage to each opponent, or even, the other giant that doubles giant's damage, it would still be great.
Yeah.
But it's on attack,
Or being targeted.
right? Who's going to target this? What are we targeting it with?
I mean, it's an opponent that targets it, not us.
Right. Why would they target it?
Because of the card draw on it. Well, it's card selection, I should say. But yes, okay, I will let you have that one. And we've got one more to remove.
Oof. Okay. This is the one that's going to be hard, isn't it?
It will be. Though sorceries, I'm wondering.
Does Glimpse the Cosmos do enough?
Not for the amount of cards we're drawing.
I think so too. I think we're just going to draw them, right?
Of course.
So yeah, I think everything else generates a ton of mana. Ironcrag Feet would be the only other one because you can only cast one more spell. It does generate 7 for 1 turn.
Where does it move to?
But,
Down here. I mean, Ironcrag Feet I actually quite like.
Yeah.
If you are gonna run like a fire diamond, and red spells cost 1 less, it's 3 mana for 7, which could pretty much get you an Inferno Titan, Borderland Behemoth,
yeah, that's
Fiery
fair.
Emancipation.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
So
You've sold me.
it might be 1 spell, but I don't think we're going to be casting more than 1 spell each turn anyway. I mean, that's a Star of Extinction.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. So yeah, I would say, just Glimpse the Cosmos and then call it a deck, right?
I mean, we've got the mana curve under 4. It's kind of reasonable.
For a red-blue deck, we are definitely light on removal and counter spells, but
I mean,
I think I'm okay with that in this deck.
I mean, the removal comes in the swing, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, the best form of removal is player removal anyway.
Yeah, we're just trying to get there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what the brush taunter's for. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, Zach.
But I'm actually quite happy with that.
Yeah.
You happy to call it a day?
Yeah, I'm good with it. Thrix is gonna make us uncounterable anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see if anyone builds this, and if anyone does build it, or actually gets a chance to do something similar, I'd love to hear it in the comments, or even just message us directly. You can find me on Instagram at Lotus Bloom Gaming, or just go straight into the 99 Discord by going to intothe99.com and finding the link through the homepage there. We'd love to discuss it. Oh, the Huntsman's going to build it for us. I'd love to actually hear how you find it.
Yeah, Huntsman, do it. I would be more than happy to take a look. Just message me anywhere, and if you need any assistance with, certain cards here and there. But yeah.
Otherwise, thank you very much for joining us again for another episode of Brewing It Live. We'll get back again same time next week. If you have any suggestions of what you'd like us to brew, just let us know. We'd be happy to take all ideas on board. And if you like what you see, you can find more great content on the Into the 99 website, where you have articles. There'll be links to the YouTube channel. There's more great podcasts there from all of us. But otherwise, I'm happy to say goodnight and thanks very much.
We love you all. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening. Take care.